I never planned to have a TV program, but I have a younger brother who wanted to be a videographer. He was unable to find enough stuff to film, and he asked if I could allow him into my courtroom. And I says, oh, no, absolutely not. But my wife said I should let him in. And that's how this all started. And that was 25 years ago. And so we were just in a small market. And because of social media, our numbers were so great that finally we became syndicated on national television. I have taken the position that the judge should take into consideration people's personal circumstances, and that not every decision should be a cookie-cut position. So I take into consideration, the life of the individual before me. For example, many times I'll have a single parent with 4 or 5 children, and they have absolutely no money, and they have a minor offense, and usually their punishment would be a large monetary fine, and the fine is set. And I have taken the position that I would not be doing justice if I gave them a large fine or even any fine at all, because maybe that evening their children would not have any food on the table, or maybe one of the necessities of life, would be denied them. And that is not really my job to do that. So particularly in offenses at the level that we treat people in my court, because we don't handle felonies where there's a murder or aggravated assault. They're usually misdemeanors, and I exercise great discretion. I took those lessons from my father, who was born in Teano, provincia de Caserta. My dad came to this country with very little skill and almost no education. He worked hard. His major goal was that his children would have a better life than he did. And he would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and push a fruit cart and peddle fruit, and then get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and deliver milk. But he would talk to us constantly, my brother and I, and tell us what was important in life. And he always talked about the importance of treating people with dignity and honesty and integrity. And he talked about the value of an education. He actually told me when I was 10 years old that someday I would be a lawyer, but that it would not be easy, and that I was never, ever, ever to give up, no matter how bad the circumstances were. And he was so right. And as a result of his inspiration and his teachings, I couldn't afford to go to college, but I worked 3 jobs because of my father. And then I couldn't afford to go to law school. So I actually went to night school, but I taught school in Providence, Rhode Island, which is 50 miles from Boston. And I would teach school days, and I would drive to Boston at night to go to law school. And I did that for 4 years. Again, with the inspiration of my dad, so I could have my dreams, which were also his dreams. He talked constantly about a better life here, and the obligation that we have to family and friends, and giving of ourselves. And I never forgot those lessons. I have a very special place in my heart for Italy. Many of the lessons that my parents taught me came right from we call them old country values. So those values come from my father's bringing up. And when I went back to Teano to meet my father's relatives and my relatives, now I know where it all came from, because the outcoming of support and love that I experienced will last with me forever. Well, there are many charitable organizations that attempt to make contributions to youngsters who can't afford to go to college. Also, we have forgiveness of tuition by the President of the United States for some youngsters that went to school, but not when they were in school. That's in retrospect. I subscribe to helping youngsters like that. I actually have a scholarship in my father's name at the university where I received my law degree, also at the college where I received my undergraduate degree, and at the high school where I went to high school. So we have contributed generously and have encouraged others to do that. I really think that we have made substantial gains in the United States in trying to help those that are underprivileged. Of course, no matter how much you do, it's never enough. I never planned to have a TV program, but I have a younger brother who wanted to be a videographer. He was unable to find enough stuff to film, and he asked if I could allow him into my courtroom. And I says, oh, no, absolutely not. But my wife said I should let him in. And that's how this all started. And that was 25 years ago. And so we were just in a small market, And because of social media, our numbers were so great that finally we became syndicated on national television. But it was a great vehicle, a great opportunity for me to bring to the court those qualities that I learned from my parents. And it's my commitment to treat people with dignity, respect, and understanding, regardless of what their circumstances are. If they are the lowest paid or if they're corporate executive, I treat them all the same. As a matter of fact, if you're poor, I probably treat you with a little more compassion. I had a gentleman appear before me. He was charged with speeding, and he was 93 or 4 years old. You know, I forget how old he was. Actually, he was 96 years old. And he was charged with speeding. And I asked him, how do you plead? And he looked at me very sternly and says, I do not speed, Judge. He said, I was taking my son to get chemotherapy at the hospital. And I asked, how old is your son? And he said, my son is 67 years old. So here's a gentleman taking his son for chemotherapy, and he's 96 years old. Just ironically, tomorrow, that gentleman will be 100 years old. And we are visiting him. We've visited him quite often. He's invited us to his home a few times, and he has already baked me the most delicious apple pie. He now is going to cook me some lasagna. He says he makes the best lasagna in the world. But we have stayed very close with him. His name is Victor Coella, and he's just a fine gentleman. He's 100 tomorrow. I remember that case so well, and there were so many heartwarming and some heartbreaking cases that we have, you know, and Victor's is a happy story.